Danny Cole wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the broken atmospheric processor in front of him. The machine was old and tired, just like everything else on this mining colony at the edge of human space. He was alone in the maintenance tunnel, working the night shift because nobody else wanted to. The colony on 442B was not a popular place to live, but Danny did not mind. He liked the quiet and the simple work of keeping things running. He heard a sound from the ventilation shaft above him. It was soft, like something dragging across metal. Danny stopped working and listened. The sound came again, closer this time. He grabbed his flashlight and pointed it at the vent cover. Something was moving inside. "Hello," he called out. "Is someone stuck in there?" The vent cover burst open, and a figure fell to the ground in front of him. Danny jumped back and raised his flashlight like a weapon. Then he saw what had fallen from the ceiling, and his breath caught in his throat. It was a woman, but not a human woman. Her skin was pale blue, almost like ice under moonlight. Her hair was long and black as space itself. She was tall and thin, with sharp features that looked both beautiful and dangerous at the same time. Her eyes were deep red, like blood caught in glass. She wore dark clothing that was torn and stained. There were wounds on her arms and side, and she was breathing hard. Danny had heard stories about beings like this. The sanguine, people called them. Vampires of the stars. They were feared across the galaxy because they fed on other species through biting. Their bite was said to create a bond that turned the victim into a slave forever. No species had ever resisted them. The woman looked up at Danny with those red eyes. She was desperate and hungry, he could see that clearly. Before he could move or speak, she lunged at him with speed that his eyes could barely follow. Her hands grabbed his shoulders and her mouth found his neck. He felt sharp teeth break his skin, and a strange cold sensation spread through his body. Danny stood very still. He did not fight or scream. He simply waited for whatever was supposed to happen next. The woman drank from him for several seconds. Then she pulled back and spoke in a voice that was low and musical. "I have bitten you. Now you belong to me." Danny touched his neck and felt the blood there. He looked at the woman and said, "That hurt a little. Are you okay? Those wounds look pretty bad." The woman stared at him. Her red eyes went wide with confusion. She took a step back and nearly fell because of her injuries. "Did you not hear me? I have claimed you. You are my thrall now, my servant, my property." Danny shrugged. "I heard you, but I asked if you were okay. You are bleeding pretty badly from your side there." The woman looked down at her wound, then back at Danny. Her face showed something he did not expect: fear. She was afraid, but not of him. She was afraid of something else entirely. "Why are you not obeying?" she asked. "Why are you not on your knees? The venom should have taken hold by now. You should feel only the desire to serve me." Danny thought about it for a moment. He felt the cold sensation from the bite fading away. His neck hurt where she had bitten him, but otherwise he felt completely normal. No desire to serve anyone. No loss of will or thought. Just Danny being Danny. "I do not feel any different," he said honestly. "Maybe your venom does not work on humans. We have only been in this part of the galaxy for about 50 years. Maybe nobody ever tried to bite one of us before." The woman sat down heavily on a crate. She looked like she might cry or scream or both. "This cannot be happening. The bite always works. It has worked on every species the sanguine have ever encountered. For 10,000 years it has never failed." Danny walked closer to her slowly, keeping his hands visible so she would not feel threatened. "Well, it failed tonight, but that does not seem like the biggest problem right now. You are hurt and hiding in a ventilation shaft on a mining colony. That tells me you are running from something." She looked at him with those strange red eyes. "You should be afraid of me. I am a predator. Your kind are prey." "Maybe," Danny said, "but right now you look more like someone who needs help than someone who is going to hurt me. Well, hurt me more than you already did." He touched his neck again and smiled a little. The woman was silent for a long time. Then she spoke quietly. My name is Nightshade in your language. I'm a criminal among my people. I refuse to participate in the ritual hunting of a peaceful species called the Myra. They are gentle beings who only want to tend their gardens and sing their songs. My people wanted to make them all into thralls. I said no. So now I am hunted. Danny nodded slowly. That sounds like a good reason to run. My name is Danny, Danny Cole. I fix things that are broken around here. Looked at him like he was the strangest thing she had ever seen. I just bit you. I tried to make you my slave, and you want to help me. You were starving and desperate, Danny said. People do things when they are desperate that they would not do otherwise. Besides, where I come from, we believe everyone deserves a second chance. Even alien vampire women who bite first and ask questions later. Almost smiled. It changed her face completely, making her look less like a predator and more like a person. Your species is very strange, Danny Cole. I have been told that before, Danny said. He held out his hand to her. Come on, let me take you somewhere safe and look at those wounds. We can figure out what to do next after you are not bleeding everywhere. Looked at his hand for a long moment. Then she reached out and took it. Her skin was cool against his, but not unpleasantly so. Danny helped her stand and supported her weight as they walked slowly through the maintenance tunnel toward a place where she could rest and heal. He did not know it yet, but this simple act of kindness was going to change everything. For him, and for the entire galaxy. Because the Sanguine had built their empire on the power of the bite. And if humans could not be controlled, then everything the Sanguine believed about themselves and their place in the universe was about to come crashing down. But that was a problem for later. Right now, Danny just wanted to help a wounded stranger who had fallen from his ceiling. That was the human thing to do. Danny brought to an abandoned storage bay deep in the colony where nobody ever went. He found medical supplies and helped clean her wounds. She healed faster than any human would, but she still needed rest. For 3 days, Danny visited her whenever he could, bringing food and water and news from the colony above. On the 4th day, was strong enough to talk properly. She sat on a crate and watched Danny eat his lunch across from her. He had brought her something too, a nutrition pack that she said tasted terrible but would keep her alive until she could feed properly again. I need to explain something to you, said, about what should have happened when I bit you. Danny put down his sandwich. I am listening. Among all the species in the known galaxy, the sanguine bite creates a permanent bond, began. When we feed on someone, our venom enters their blood and changes something in their brain. They become connected to us. They feel what we feel. They want what we want. They become thralls, completely loyal and obedient to their sanguine master. This bond cannot be broken by any known means. It lasts until death. Danny touched the healing mark on his neck. But I do not feel any of that. I feel exactly the same as I did before you bit me. I know, said, and there was wonder in her voice. I have been thinking about this for 3 days. I believe that human brain chemistry is simply incompatible with our venom. Your neurons fire differently. Your neurotransmitters are structured in ways we have never encountered. The venom enters your system, but it has nothing to attach to. It just fades away. So humans cannot become thralls, Danny said slowly. We cannot be controlled by the bite. Correct, leaned forward, her red eyes intense. Danny, you do not understand what this means. The Sanguine have ruled over dozens of species for 10,000 years. Our entire civilization is built on the power of the bite. We do not conquer through war or technology. We simply bite the leaders of other species and they become ours. Their people follow because their leaders command them to. It is how we have always done things. Danny felt a chill run down his spine. That is slavery. That is just slavery with extra steps. Yes, said quietly. It is why I ran. I saw what we were doing to the Myra and I could not be part of it anymore. But my people do not see it as wrong. They see it as the natural order. The strong control the weak. That is the law of the universe. That is a terrible law, Danny said. I agree, but it is also why I am so frightened right now. Stood up and began packing. If my people learn that humans cannot be controlled, they will see you as a threat. The greatest threat they have ever faced. A species that can look them in the eye and say no. A species that can fight back without being turned. Would they try to destroy us? Stopped packing. I do not know. The Sanguine High Council might decide that humans are too dangerous to exist. They might send fleets to wipe out every human colony before your kind spreads further into the galaxy. Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he said, or they might try to find another way to control us. Weapons, threats, something other than the bite. Perhaps, but the bite is everything to my people. Without it, they would have to actually fight their wars and negotiate their treaties and treat other species as equals. They have forgotten how to do those things. They have not needed to for thousands of years. The door to the storage bay opened suddenly. Danny jumped to his feet and pressed herself against the wall, ready to fight or run. But it was just Lisa Monroe, the colony security chief. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and sharp eyes that noticed everything. "Danny," Lisa said slowly, "want to tell me why you have been sneaking down here every day, and who is your friend?" Danny looked at, then back at Lisa. There was no point in lying. Lisa was too smart for that. Her name is, she is a sanguine. She was hurt and running from her own people, and I have been helping her hide. Lisa's hand moved toward her weapon. A sanguine, here. Danny, do you know what they can do? One bite and you become their puppet forever. She already bit me, Danny said. It did not work. Lisa froze. What do you mean it did not work? I mean I feel fine. No urge to serve her. No loss of free will. Nothing. Danny pulled down his collar to show the healing bite mark. Human brains are apparently immune to their venom. We cannot be turned into thralls. Lisa stared at the bite mark, then back at Danny. Her mind was clearly working through the implications of what she had just heard. If that is true, then this changes everything. It does, said. And if my people find out, they may decide to destroy your species before you become a threat to their power. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised both Danny and. She sat down on a crate and crossed her arms. Tell me everything, from the beginning, and do not leave anything out. So Danny told her everything. About the bite, about the thralls, about the Sanguine Empire, and how it was built on the backs of mind-controlled slaves from dozens of species. Lisa listened without interrupting, her face growing darker with each new piece of information. When they finished, Lisa stood up and looked at with hard eyes. I do not trust you. Your people are monsters who have enslaved half the galaxy. But if Danny is right about you, if you really did refuse to participate in that cruelty, then maybe you are different. Maybe you deserve a chance to prove it. Thank you, said quietly. Do not thank me yet, Lisa replied, because I have a feeling that your people are going to come looking for you, and when they do, we are all going to be in a lot of trouble. She was right. The trouble was already on its way, moving through space at faster than light speed, getting closer with every passing hour. The Sanguine warship appeared in orbit around 4:42 on a cold morning when the twin suns were just beginning to rise. It was a massive vessel, shaped like a black dagger against the stars. The colonists looked up at the sky and felt fear settle into their bones. They had heard stories about ships like this. Nothing good ever came from them. Commander stood on the bridge of his ship and looked down at the tiny human colony below. He was tall even for a sanguine, with skin so pale it was almost white and eyes the color of fresh blood. He had hunted criminals across the galaxy for 200 years, and he had never failed to bring one back. Nightshade would not be the first to escape him. He opened communications with the colony. Human settlement, this is Commander of the Sanguine Dominion. You are harboring a fugitive from our justice. Surrender her to us immediately and you will not be harmed. Refuse, and we will take her by force. In the colony's command center, Pete Harrison listened to the message with growing dread. He was the colony administrator, a balding man in his 50s who had taken this job because he thought it would be quiet and peaceful. He was wrong. "What do we do?" asked one of his staff. Pete looked at Lisa, who had just arrived with Danny and a cloaked figure he guessed was the fugitive in question. "I think we need to have a conversation first. A quick one." Lisa explained the situation in rapid words. The sanguine bite did not work on humans. This woman was a criminal only because she refused to participate in slavery. And if the sanguine learned about human immunity, they might try to wipe out humanity entirely. Pete sat down heavily in his chair. "This is way above my pay grade." "I know," Lisa said. "But right now, you are the one who has to make a decision. Do we hand her over or do we refuse?" Pete looked at who had lowered her hood. She looked tired and scared, but there was dignity in the way she held herself. She had given up everything because she would not help enslave innocent people. That took courage. "We are not going to hand anyone over to slavers," Pete said firmly. "That is not who we are. Tell this commander that he can come down and talk to us like civilized people or he can leave. Those are his options." Lisa smiled grimly. "I will pass that along." Commander did not take the refusal well. An hour later, he landed at the colony's main entrance with a squad of soldiers. But they were not sanguine soldiers. They were thralls from half a dozen different species, their eyes dull and their movements mechanical. They had been bitten and claimed, their free will stripped away forever. Pete went to meet them with Lisa at his side. Danny stayed back with, watching from a safe distance. Looked at the two humans with contempt. "You are making a mistake. The sanguine do not negotiate with lesser species. We take what we want." "Then you are going to have a problem," Pete said calmly, "because we are not going to give you what you want." Moved faster than Pete could follow. One moment the commander was standing 3 meters away, and the next he was right in front of Pete with his teeth in Pete's neck. Lisa shouted and reached for her weapon, but the thralls moved to block her. Drank briefly and then stepped back, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. "There. Now you belong to me. You will order your people to surrender the fugitive and you will do it with a smile on your face." Pete stood very still for a moment. His face was blank. Then his expression changed to one of pure rage, and he punched directly in the face with all the strength he had. The commander stumbled backward, more from surprise than from the force of the blow. He touched his jaw where Pete had hit him and stared at the human with disbelief. "That is impossible. The bite always works. You should be mine." "I am not anyone's property," Pete said, his voice shaking with anger. "I belong to myself, and you just assaulted me on my own colony." Looked at Lisa, then at the other humans who were gathering around them. None of them seemed afraid anymore. They seemed angry, and he could not understand why his bite had failed. Then his eyes found in the crowd and understanding began to dawn. What did you do? What did you tell them?" "I did not do anything," said. "Humans are simply immune to our venom. Their brains do not accept the bond. They cannot be made into thralls." His pale face went even paler. "That is not possible. No species is immune. In 10,000 years, we have never encountered a species we could not claim." "You have now," Danny said, stepping forward. "And I am guessing your bosses back home are not going to be happy when they find out." Composed himself quickly. He was a hunter who had survived 2 centuries of dangerous work. He knew when a situation had changed. "This information must be reported to the High Council. They will decide what to do about your species." "That sounds like a threat," Lisa said, her hand still on her weapon. "It is a fact," replied coldly. "The Sanguine Dominion will not tolerate the existence of a species that threatens our way of life. One way or another, humanity will be dealt with." He turned and walked back toward his shuttle with his thralls following behind him. Pete watched him go with blood still dripping from his neck. "He is going to call for reinforcements," said. Bigger ships, more soldiers. They will be here in 6 hours at most. Then we have 6 hours to figure out how to stop them, Lisa said. Danny looked at and saw an idea forming in her eyes. What are you thinking? Took a deep breath. I am thinking that I should surrender, give myself up to buy you time to evacuate. No, Danny said immediately. We are not sacrificing you to save ourselves. There has to be another way. Danny is right, Pete said. We do not leave people behind, not even people who bid us. He touched his neck and winced. Especially not people who bid us for a good reason. Lisa checked her communication device. Reinforcements from the nearest human fleet are 12 hours away. We cannot wait for them. We need a plan that works with what we have. Danny was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he spoke slowly. Ship has a crew, right? Sanguine officers and thralls from other species. Yes, said. Perhaps 30 sanguine and 200 thralls. And the thralls only obey because they were bitten, because the bond makes them. That is correct. Danny smiled. Then I have an idea, but it is going to require someone to get captured on purpose, and I volunteer. Danny's plan was simple but dangerous. If humans could not be controlled by the sanguine bite, then they could move freely among the vampires without fear of being turned. And if Danny could get aboard that ship, maybe he could do something to help the thralls trapped there. Did not like the plan at all. You do not understand how cruel my people can be. If the bite does not work, they may simply kill you instead. They might, Danny agreed. But saw what happened with Pete. He knows humans are immune. He is going to want to study me, figure out why the bite fails. That curiosity will keep me alive long enough to do what needs to be done. And what exactly needs to be done? Lisa asked. Danny looked at. You said the bite creates a psychic bond. The thralls feel connected to their masters, right? They feel what the sanguine feel. Yes, it is how we control them. The bond makes them want to serve us. But what if something disrupts that bond? What if being near a human, someone the venom cannot touch, weakens the connection somehow? His red eyes went wide. I never considered that. When I was near you in that storage bay, I felt different, calmer, more like myself than I had felt in years. I thought it was just because you were kind to me, but maybe there was something else happening. We need to test this, Lisa said. If human presence really does weaken the bonds, that changes everything. There was no time for careful experiments. Danny surrendered himself to Commander an hour later, walking out to the shuttle landing pad with his hands raised. He told that he wanted to help study human immunity in exchange for the colony being left alone. Did not believe him for a second, but he also could not resist the opportunity. A human test subject who came willingly was too valuable to refuse. He had Danny brought aboard the warship and placed in a holding cell. The cell was small and cold, with walls made of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Danny sat on the hard bench and waited. He did not have to wait long. They came for him within the hour. Sanguine scientists in pale robes who looked at him like he was a fascinating insect they wanted to dissect. They drew his blood and scanned his brain and asked him questions about human biology. Danny answered honestly because the truth was on his side. Humans really were immune. There was no secret weapon or hidden technology. It was simply how human brains worked. Then himself arrived. The commander stood outside Danny's cell and studied him with those blood-red eyes. My scientists tell me that your neural structure is completely incompatible with our venom. The bonding agents have nothing to attach to. It is as if evolution specifically designed your species to resist us. Maybe it did, Danny said. Humans evolved on a pretty harsh planet. We had to adapt to survive all kinds of threats. Maybe we developed resistance to psychic control without even knowing it. Perhaps, opened the cell door and stepped inside. But I wonder if your immunity is truly complete. My bite failed on you and on your administrator. But what about multiple bites? What about stronger venom from older, more powerful sanguine? Danny felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his voice calm. Only one way to find out. Smiled, showing his fangs. I like you, human. You have courage. It is almost a shame that we may have to destroy your entire species to protect ourselves. He bit Danny 3 times in quick succession, on the neck, the wrist, and the shoulder. Each time, Danny felt that strange, cold sensation spreading through his body, and each time it faded away to nothing. Stepped back, frustration clear on his face. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Your mind remains your own. Told you, Danny said, though his voice was weaker now from blood loss. A thrall brought Danny water and bandages for his wounds. The thrall was from a species Danny did not recognize, with skin and large, dark eyes. Its movements were mechanical, but when Danny looked into those eyes, he saw something flicker. Pain, loneliness, a person trapped inside their own body. Thank you, Danny said to the thrall. What is your name? The thrall froze. Its mouth opened and closed several times. Then, in a voice rough from disuse, it said, My name was. Watched this exchange with narrowed eyes. Thralls do not speak unless commanded. They do not have names anymore. They are simply tools. Everyone has a name, Danny said. Everyone deserves to be seen as a person. He kept his eyes on. What did you do before you were bitten? Do you remember? The thrall shuddered. Its large eyes filled with something that looked like tears. I was a scientist. I studied stars. I had a family. I had a home. Each word seemed to come with enormous effort, like was pushing through invisible walls. Danny reached out and touched his arm gently. I am sorry that was taken from you. That was wrong. Something changed in the room. Danny could feel it, a shift in the air, a weakening of something invisible but powerful. Stood. The dullness in its eyes began to fade. And across the ship, Danny heard confused shouts as other thralls began to stir and remember. Grabbed Danny by the throat and slammed him against the wall. What did you do? What is happening? Danny smiled despite the pain. I think I just reminded them who they are, and I think being around me is making it easier for them to break free. The truth was even simpler than Danny realized. Human immunity was not just passive resistance. It was active disruption. The same neural structures that made humans immune to the bite also interfered with existing bonds when humans were nearby. It was like a radio signal that jammed the sanguine frequency. Moved suddenly, faster than Danny expected. The thrall grabbed a tool from the medical kit and struck on the back of the head. The commander crumpled to the floor, unconscious. I remember now, said, its voice stronger with each word. I remember everything, and I want my freedom back. Danny stood up and looked at the thrall who was becoming a person again. Then, let us go give it to you, and to everyone else on this ship. Together they walked out of the cell and into the corridor. Around them, thralls were waking up, shaking off centuries of control, remembering the people they used to be. The revolution had begun, and it had started with a simple question. What is your name? The ship was in chaos. Thralls who had served the sanguine for decades or centuries were waking up and remembering who they were. Some of them simply sat down and wept for everything they had lost. Others looked at their masters with rage burning in their newly clear eyes. Danny moved through the corridors at his side, speaking to every thrall they encountered. He asked their names, asked where they came from, asked if they remembered their families. Each conversation seemed to speed up the breaking of the bonds. Human presence plus human compassion equaled freedom. Led him to the ship's communication center. We can send a message from here to all of Sanguine Space. Tell everyone what we have discovered. Are you sure you want to do that? Danny asked. It will cause chaos. Thralls everywhere will start fighting for their freedom. There will be violence and confusion. Looked at Danny with its large dark eyes, now bright with intelligence and determination. I spent 40 years as a slave, unable to think my own thoughts or feel my own feelings. I watched my masters destroy worlds and enslave civilizations, and I could do nothing to stop it. If there is even a small chance to end that for others, I will take it." Danny nodded. "Then let us make some noise." They recorded a message together. Danny explained that humans were immune to the sanguine bite and that their presence seemed to weaken existing bonds. Added a plea in their own language, calling on thralls across the galaxy to resist, to remember, to fight for their freedom. They broadcasted on every frequency they could reach. The response was immediate. On the colony below, Lisa detected communications exploding across sanguine space. Confused reports of thralls rebelling, of bonds failing, of the ordered empire suddenly descending into chaos. But Commander was not finished. He woke from his injury with murder in his heart. He gathered his loyal sanguine crew, about 20 officers who had never relied on thralls alone, and he marched toward the communications center with weapons drawn. Danny saw them coming on the security monitors. "We have company." Stood up calmly. "I will hold them off. You must escape and return to your people. I am not leaving you behind. You must. You are more valuable than one freed thrall. Your presence can liberate millions. My life is a small price for that." Pushed Danny toward a side corridor. "Go, tell her that her courage started something that cannot be stopped." Before Danny could argue, sealed the door between them and turned to face the approaching sanguine. Danny ran. He found an escape pod and launched himself toward the colony below. As he fell through the atmosphere, he saw flashes of light from the ship above. Fighting. Maybe winning, maybe losing. He would not know until he was safely on the ground. The pod crashed hard at the edge of the colony. Lisa and Pete were there to pull him from the wreckage. So was her pale blue face streaked with tears. "The message is spreading," Lisa said. "Every sanguine colony is reporting uprisings. The thralls are fighting back everywhere." "Will try to destroy us," Danny said. "He will want to eliminate the evidence." Even as he spoke, the warship above began to move, positioning itself for an orbital bombardment. But something was wrong. The ship was turning slowly, unsteadily. Through the viewport, Danny could see movement on the hull. Fighting. "The thralls on board are resisting," said, wonder in her voice. "They are actually fighting the crew." The battle lasted nearly an hour. From the ground, the colonists could only watch and hope. Then, finally, the ship went quiet. A single shuttle launched from its hangar and descended toward the colony. Danny and the others waited with weapons ready. But when the shuttle opened, it was not enemies who emerged. It was a handful of freed thralls, battered but alive. "Commander is in custody," announced. "The ship is ours." Danny could not help himself. He rushed forward and embraced the former thrall, not caring that they had known each other for only a few hours. "I thought you were dead." "I nearly was," admitted. "But I remembered something important. I am not just a thrall anymore. I am scientist and free person, and free people do not give up easily." The days that followed were a blur of activity. Human ships arrived from other colonies, bringing soldiers and supplies and diplomats. The captured Sanguine were held securely while negotiations began with the chaos that had been their empire. The Sanguine High Council, facing rebellion across their entire territory, had no choice but to talk. They could not fight a war on 100 fronts while their workforce was freeing itself. Peace treaties were drafted, freedom guaranteed, reparations promised. On the night before the diplomats were scheduled to leave, found Danny sitting alone on the edge of the colony, looking up at the stars. "You look thoughtful," she said, sitting beside him. "Just thinking about how strange life is. A week ago I was fixing atmospheric processors and complaining about the quiet. Now I accidentally started a galactic revolution." "You did more than start it. You showed the thralls that freedom was possible. You reminded them that they were people, not property." Was quiet for a moment. "I owe you an apology, Danny. When I bit you, I tried to make you my slave. I was desperate, but that does not excuse it. You already apologized several times. I know, but I want to say something else. Turn to face him. Among my people, the words I spoke to you have great meaning. When a sanguine says you belong to me, it is supposed to be forever, a bond that cannot be broken. But it did not work on me. No, it did not. Reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool, but Danny did not mind. So I want to say different words, better words, words that actually mean something. Danny looked into her red eyes and saw no predator there, just a woman who had risked everything to do what was right. What words? He asked. I want to belong with you, said. Not because of venom or bonds or ownership, because you showed me kindness when I deserved none, because you taught me that real connection comes from choice, not control. I am not asking you to be mine. I am asking if I can be yours, if we can be each other's, as equals. Danny smiled and squeezed her hand. Where I come from, that is called being partners, and yes, I would like that very much. Above them, ships from a dozen freed species gathered to celebrate the end of an empire and the beginning of something new. Humanity had not meant to start a revolution. They had just done what came naturally to them. They had offered kindness to a stranger, refused to abandon someone in need, and reminded slaves that they were people. Sometimes, that was all it took to change the galaxy.